So this is a video that I really, for the last 4 months, this was the last thing on my mind. This is the last thing I thought could happen or would happen, considering this is something that has never ever happened to me before in the history of me, well, going through life, but the gym, especially like something that's quite high risk, where any injury can happen, anything can arise, but I've always considered the fact that I did things in quite a safe way. I've never like gone under load too heavy where I felt like I could injure myself, or done anything like super silly where I feel like it may result in something that would like put me out. But never did I ever think that what happened 2 weeks ago would have ever happened in the respect and the way that it did happen. So the last video you saw, I was 2 weeks out and I was staying in Manchester with James Beardwell, and we were shooting the collaboration collection that I'm doing with him and Hardbody as Hardbody's first ever collaboration collection. This was literally days before probably one of the most surprising events of my entire life. Not like one of the worst things I've ever experienced, of course, because I'm like genuinely good now, but definitely something that I wasn't necessarily mentally ready for, from the perspective of I was giving myself to prep wholeheartedly. This was literally me preparing myself to make my pro debut, something that I never thought would ever happen. And day to day, moment by moment, I was gearing myself up to do something that I never thought I'd ever get the chance to do, which is step on stage with other pro athletes as a pro athlete, doing something at a level I never thought would ever happen. I was nervous, I was scared, but I feel like that's why all of this sucks so much more, is because I was starting to believe that I was going to do well. I was starting to think like the physique I was developing and the condition I was in and the readiness I was leaning into, not just physically, but mentally as well. I was like, I'm going to be able to bring this to the stage and not be a small pro. My goal was to hit top 5 in my first pro show, and I was starting to believe that that would actually happen. And at the moment when I took check-in pictures while I was in Manchester and sent them to Callum, he was like, bro, you're almost there. And not just almost there from the respect of like being 2 weeks out. We literally had a conversation that if I was to do like a 3-day peak, I could be show ready. And there were pictures that I was taking the day before it happened, where I was seeing lines in my physique and muscles that I developed that I'd never seen before. And obviously one of the most exciting things about bodybuilding, especially when you come to like do a show, because you get to see all the hard work you've been putting in over like growth phases, is you get to see all the minor little muscle bellies that are starting to peek through and show. And I was starting to see all of this stuff. Then something happened 2 days after Manchester where I was in the gym and I had previously just had a refeed. So I don't even know how this happened, because it's not something that happened like while I was training. It happened like after the session while I was flexing. The day before it happened, I had a 4,200 calorie refeed. My base calories were on 2,300 on a low day and 2,700 on like a regular day. I'd had a little bit of a bump up, and it was more so conducive to the respect of higher carbs. So we had 600 grams of carbs on the day before. With this came a ton of energy. My muscles were feeling strong. I was able to get a pump the next day that honestly emulated similar to the pump I got after the cheat meal that I had like a week before. But regardless, my body was super responsive and we needed to have another feed up because I was getting too lean too fast. With my glycogen stores being full, so your muscles are in a position where they're full of energy, able to perform, it doesn't necessarily mean your ligaments are going to follow. And that's the one thing about bodybuilding that always scared me, is that when you are running things like Winstrol and Clen and these compounds that are drying out your ligaments, they're sucking everything and making you so tight. Fighting that is the strength and the readiness of your muscles. So these two harmonious components that, you know, live tranquilly in the body your whole life are now fighting at different strengths, which is why I think what happened. In the gym, the following day after the refeed, I had a fantastic workout. And in my mind, I was like, I'm 2 weeks out. I have 2 weeks to gun it now and to give this everything I physically have, because I'm 2 weeks out. My body was days out from the show. A few low days, maybe another high day, and half a diazide and a tan and a shaving a little bit away from being show ready. So I shouldn't have been training with the intensity that I was. While I was full, pumped post-workout, Callum wanted pictures to see what I was looking like, because this was going to devise my calories for the day. He gave me 2 high meals in the morning, but I trained fasted because my goal for the day was I can use the glycogen from the previous day. I drank 2 liters of water going to the gym. I was like, I'm going to be fully hydrated, train. I'd previously taken my morning stack, so Clen, Winstrol, Proviron, all the things I had to take, my Anavar, basically all of my oral pills, and then I went to go train. And I thought if I got my training session done in the morning that I could enjoy an entire day of food and just chill out and just have a really good time at the exact 13 day out mark. So I'm posing, and I got a guy in the gym that I'd spoken to a few times to help me take these pictures. A front lat spread, a most muscular, a front double bicep, and a side chest. And it's the side chest where I can't do it now. I'll show you why in a second, because my arm's kind of blue. My lat was pressing against the inside of my arm. My rear delt was really, really flexed. In the side chest position, you flex your arm, so your tricep is also really, really flexed. There was so much pressure in my rear delt to tricep area that I flexed so hard that I literally tore my shoulder off the bone. And I didn't believe this in the beginning. I was like, the reason I just felt a pop, like, and a sound, and my elbow cock back further than it could previously in a side chest pose, because obviously there's limitations from your muscles stopping you from rotating any further, as well as limited flexibility due to the fact that you are so tight from the pump and the drugs you're on for the show. You're obviously limited through the rotation you're allowed to achieve. But when that did happen, my elbow cocked back about this much further. My arm went dead, it kind of dropped down, and my whole arm went cold and numb. I had never really felt like I wanted to pass out so much in my entire life. Apparently, the guy that was taking pictures, he said my face was so white that he thought that I was going to pass out. The person that was taking the pictures had previously torn his chest, so he was a little bit more well versed in the tearing of muscles nature. I sat down on the bench and he knew what happened and I knew what happened, and I just felt this overwhelming, just, is this what this feels like? I'd seen so many videos of people do this on Instagram, but never really knew what it felt like truly. I imagined what it might feel like, but never really knew what it would feel like. There was no feeling whatsoever, which led me to believe that it was something that had torn. But I also like to believe in the moment that it was just like when you crack your knuckles, it was an air pocket that popped, or it was a ligament that sort of like, moved the same way when you get like a sports massage. You've got loads of tight knots in your back and maybe one of them released within my shoulder. I also thought that it could have been, from a more serious nature, an injection. A bit of scar tissue that had released from injecting my delts. I wasn't really injecting my delts that much on prep. It was something that I rotate, because I always rotate between my legs, my glutes, my lats, and my shoulders to basically decrease the scar tissue that builds up. I was trying to create all these scenarios in my brain as to why I was feeling this thing. And I was in my boxer shorts, obviously, because I was taking these pictures, and I didn't know what to feel. I just knew that I needed water. So the guy ran to the front desk and he gave me some water. He gave me like a GSN protein wrap, and I was like, bro, this isn't on my plan. And he basically said, like, bro, shut the fuck. You're eating this right now. Although those calories weren't going to touch me, in my mind, I was 13 days out, no matter what was going on with me. I ate the wrap, I drank the water, and I lay on the ground. And the gym was very busy. I got so many messages from people that were at the gym basically being like, bro, what the hell happened? We didn't know what to do. I got up, obviously, and I didn't really know what to do. I called the people that I knew to call. I called a surgeon that I knew that was in London, that was a private surgeon, and I couldn't get through to him because this happened on Bank Holiday Monday, when no one works in the UK. So I was like, I'm basically screwed. After about an hour of chilling, contemplating, procrastinating, worrying, wondering if prep was really going to happen, and convincing myself that no matter what this is, I'm staying on prep no matter what. Because I'd already quit a prep at the end of last year off the pretext that I didn't want to just compete in one pro show, I wanted to compete in 3 or 4, which is why I competed and started prep obviously like 4 months ago. So I had it in my mind that this would never end, no matter what. Here I was, sat in my car, looking at my phone. It was half dead, then it would turn on, then it would die, then it would turn on, and I was fighting the battery in my car that wasn't charging my phone fast enough, and it was just like, I felt this deadness, this like give up, just like, you're screwed. You've said you're going to do this thing that you now can't do. You've gone through all these other things over the last period of time in terms of being dumped and whatever else. Whatever. It was just a bunch of stuff. And I was like, really? Out of all things that could have happened, did this really have to happen? Because it was prep that was keeping me straight. In my mind, it was anyway. And I realize now, because it's been 9 days since it happened now. And I realized that it wasn't prep that was keeping me straight. It was my own mental fortitude that was keeping me straight. It was the people around me. It was my friends and family that I was able to lean on over the last 4 months when things kind of hit the fan. And prep was almost just like a catalyst and an excuse to continue on a straight and narrow path, when realizing now that it wasn't prep that needed to be there for that to happen. It was mental clarity, it was understanding, it was okayness with things that were going on in my life. I'm so glad that some of the things over the last 4 months had happened, because it set me up to be in a position now where I'm able to completely come to terms with the fact that what has happened, and it's completely freaking okay. Because obviously, after the initial process of what happened after my phone did get charged, which was I went to a doctor's, it was a non-emergency hospital in Bromsgrove that I went to. They gave me an x-ray and they said that there's some minor potential bone fragmentation, but we can't really see because an x-ray can't see muscles or ligaments, you can just see bones. It was basically like a grey area on the line of my shoulder that they couldn't really decipher what it was. And I was like, oh, okay, this is really good information. And it gave me the ability to be able to make the next call, which put me in communication with a guy called Radu, who was able, he owns a clinic in Worcester, and he was able to get me a referral to go get an MRI. 4 days later, I got the MRI. And within 2 days, I found out the results of it. I sat in this tiny little machine that scanned my entire shoulder for 45 minutes, and I was sweating buckets because it warms your entire body. And I was like squidge because the machines aren't built for bodybuilders. 2 days later, the results came in. And this, when I was on the way to pick up something that is now parked outside of this new apartment, which I'm recording this video in right now, because a lot has happened since this injury. All this was going to happen anyway, but it was going to happen after prep. But considering the place that I paid for 6 months up front, I was going to move into after prep when I got back from the Ireland show on the 1st of July was actually already available. I'm going to talk about that in like another video, because I'm going to give you like a full apartment tour, because we are now in the new place and this is actually the first full day here. And I love it and it's amazing. And I've got a new car parked outside, which I'm going to show you. And if you follow me on Instagram, you already know. If you have been following any of this journey on Instagram, you will already know everything I'm pretty much saying right now. I just wanted to just sit down with you guys. And if you didn't know, to obviously just let you know that prep's over. And it sucks, but it's okay. When I was on the way to pick up the thing that's parked outside my new car, Radu called me with a comprehensive breakdown and the results with a conclusion at the end. And he said, Brandon, I'm not gonna shit talk you. I'm not gonna basically like sugarcoat this. He was like, if you do the show, you're an idiot. And I said, why? Because I will do anything to do this show. And he said, because your shoulder is literally detached from the bone and there's an 85% chance that you're gonna need surgery. I have a surgery consultation booked in 2 days to go to London to speak to a surgeon. He's going to give me a bit of a visual assessment, and I know we're already going to come to the conclusion that I do need surgery, because not only from a performance standpoint, from a visual standpoint, but from my own well-being and peace of mind standpoint, because I am going to have such bad PTSD now going to the gym and trying to train on something that I know could potentially pop again. Then from the aesthetic standpoint, it might not look the same because there has been a part of my shoulder that's come off. And then also from a strength perspective, a performance perspective, I now am going to have such bad PTSD going to the gym, going into a shoulder day, even after spending time recovering. Like if I took now a month off upper body days and I took all the peptides, TB, BPC, all these things on growth hormone and whatever else, and healing, not only is it going to heal in a position that it wasn't naturally meant to be in, and all this scar tissue is going to build up in a place that it shouldn't necessarily be, it's not going to be as strong as it was. So I need to get this surgery from the perspective of being able, after rehab, because what's going to happen is they're going to put some incisions in my shoulder, maybe a big keyhole surgery from 3 different positions all over my shoulder, or maybe they'll just slice me open and do what they got to do. Obviously, the surgeon does know that the aesthetic of my shoulder is really, really important based on the fact that I do want to step on stage one day. The main goal is obviously to just put it back in a position where it's close to where it was before. I'm then able to take the peptides to then spend that month then recovering and whatever else. And I'm honestly just like talking about recovery as if I know what I'm talking about. Realistically, I have no idea how long this is going to take to fully recover. All I know is what I've said in regards to I can't prep now. I can't come to terms with the fact that I prepped for 18 weeks for no reason. That's the hard thing, because I do not believe it was for no reason. I learned a lot about myself over this last 4 months, and granted there was only 13 days left before presenting the best physique I've ever brought to the stage in my entire life. But I'm also of the knowledge that the stage is always there. And it's going to be there in 4 months, it's going to be there in 6 months, it's going to be there at the start of next year when the new season begins, and that is completely okay. I've come to terms with it. I just wanted to sit down and tell you guys about it. I wanted to say that I'm sorry if I let anyone down. I maybe could have been better prepared. I maybe could have done things differently for this to have not happened, but it did. I'm dealing with it. This is the end of Hardbody Shredding 2024. I think this is episode 18 or something. But yeah, I've received thousands of lovely messages and get wells and heal up fasts. And I want to let you know how much that means to me. Because although I can put on a brave face and say, yeah, it's totally fine. And yes, I'm in a fantastic mental position now. It's been hard. Because I do hold myself to such a level and standard of what I want to force myself to achieve, that when things seemingly get ripped away from you because fate had a different decision, fate had a different path for you, and you have no control over that. And that's what happened. But it's not been something I've not been able to overcome. And there's a lot I need to be grateful for. This new place, the absolute weapon I have parked outside, the friends and family that I have, and you guys. So that's going to be it for the video. This is the reality of prep. The body isn't necessarily made to do the things that we force it to do. And sometimes our goals are more dangerous than they should be. And sometimes we put our bodies, and sometimes we put things into our bodies that force it to be in a position to be fragile, both physically and mentally. Now we reassess, we heal, we get better, and we do what we can. We pivot, and that's all you can do. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, which I hope you didn't, drop a like. Turn on post notifications, subscribe if you haven't already, because it really helps the channel grow. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace. By the way, here's the shoulder. That's what it's looking like right now. Obviously it's a bit shit. All the swelling, my entire shoulder is inflamed. It's all around the back, it goes down my tricep. And yeah, I thought I'd show you in person before I ended the video. But it is what it is. Peace.